Hi everyone. Welcome to another insightful session of Revise as Pro, designed by Uplift Pro specifically to meet the requirements of the USCMA aspirants at the final stages of the preparation. Today in our session, we would be covering section D, part 2 of the USCMA syllabus, and the topic is about enterprise risk management having a weightage of 10%. Hopefully, you people who are following these sessions are enjoying and finding it useful for your final stages of preparation. Coming into the enterprise risk management, a theoretical section often becomes boring for the students, but my suggestion is that theoretical sections often are high scoring sections. So if we are conceptually clear, be it a MCQ or a essay question, they would be definitely helping you to score high and also cool down your nerve in that exam hall. So let's get started and proceed with the revision of ERM. And in this section, or in this session rather, we will be covering the meaning of ERM, the benefits, as well as the COSO ERM framework, which speaks of the components and principles. So let's move ahead and see what is in store. Firstly, what is expected in the exam from this topic? Definitely MCQs involving the meaning, benefits, the COSO ERM framework, components and principles, and there might be the essay questions involving strategy pertaining to ERM. So conceptually, if you are clear, definitely you will be able to click and score correctly in these areas. Key points to remember. Firstly, the ERM framework introduced by COSO was integrated with the concepts of strategy and performance aspects in 2017. This should be kept in mind. Second point, very important, highlighting the definition of ERM. So the framework defines ERM as the culture, capabilities, and practices that integrated with strategy setting and performance assist an entity to rely to manage risks by creating, preserving, and realizing value. Quite a big paragraph, but hopefully there is a easy mnemonic to remember. How it is done? CCPIS. So culture, capability, practices. When integrated with strategy setting and performance, MR, manage risks. CPR, it is creating, preserving, and realizing value. So please write this particular mnemonic couple of times. You will remember the entire definition of ERM. Coming to the next thing, the premise of ERM, remember, organization should strive to create value for its stakeholders. That is one of the fundamental premise of ERM. This might be helpful for you when you get essay questions around ERM. Next, it is a coordinated and holistic organization-wide risk management system. So it's not narrow-minded, it is basically wide concept, a holistic approach from the entire organizational standpoint. Coming into the benefits of ERM, my suggestion, please keep in mind these benefits, the keywords, because in MCQ often it so happens that they give four options, three are correct, one is definitely wrong, and you would be required to find out which might be the wrong one. So if the benefits are well aware of, you can quickly know which is not a benefit of ERM. So what are the benefits? Firstly, increasing the range of opportunities by considering both the positive and negative aspect of risks. So it considers both sides of the coin, the plus as well as the minus. Next, identifying and managing risks entity wide at overall level and not specific part of an entity alone. As I said, holistic approach, overall concept for the organization as a whole. Keep in mind that aspect. Increasing positive outcomes and reducing negative surprises. That's one of the basic benefit of ERM, that is it will try to amplify the advantages and it will try to mitigate or reduce the disadvantages situation. Reducing performance variability. When there is a situation of performance varying a lot, they try to reduce that aspect. Next, improving resource deployment and optimization. There is another important benefit, that how my resources are deployed, whether they're optimally utilized or not, that is held by ERM. Finally, enhancing the enterprise resilience to future changes and boosting adaptability. And we often say that in case of organization, if it has to survive, it has to continuously learn to adapt, because the future changes that will happen, they have to try to learn from that and become better. And I think ERM plays a very critical role in that, in making our organization resilient to the future changes and boosting adaptability, as we said. Now let's move ahead to see what is further there for us to keep in mind. The next thing that we should be keeping in mind is the COSO ERM framework, which has 5 interrelated components and 20 principles. Very important area. Anything can be asked. They can ask around the components, giving 3 components right, 1 component wrong. You have to be aware of the components so that you can select the right option. There can be a question around strategy, around essay questions involving the components and the underlying principles. So how to remember the components? We GoPro. That's very important. So GoPro is a mnemonic through which we'll remember the components of the COSO ERM framework. So what does the G stands for? It stands for governance and culture. And what are the underlying principles? Remember the word doves. DOVES. So I'll explain that. The ones which are highlighted in blue fonts, remember those are highlighting the keyword in doves as the principle of the COSO ERM framework. So what does the governance and culture speaks? Defines desired culture. Then that is basically D of our doves. Board oversight, that is O of our doves. Commitment to core values. Then attract, develop and retain employees. It establishes the operating structure. So whatever is highlighted in blue, they are the first letter in our doves word. So basically our governance and culture deals with mission, vision and core values. That's the first component. Next comes the second, strategy and objective setting. So O, you just remember the objective setting part. Together is strategy and objective setting. Principle is SOAR. SOAR. Again, how does the SOAR is basically explained? Evaluate alternative strategies. That is the S. Formulate business objectives. O is for the objectives. Analysis business context. Right. That is the A. Define risk appetite. What is the risk taking ability of the business? That is the R standing in the SOAR. That's basically the second component. Third one is performance. P, and we are having the mnemonic for that for the principles, VAPIR. VAPIR. How does it go? The principles, developing portfolio view, that is the V, assesses severity of risks, that is the A, prioritizes the risks, that is the P, then identifies the risks, the I, and then implement risk responses, these are. So interestingly, in the performance you see that first you are prioritizing the risks, identifying that and then implementing the risk responses. And when we talk about risk responses, remember the mnemonics ARTS. ARTS. What is that? So risk responses can be of different types. It can be A for acceptance, that is very accepting the risks. Reduction, that is through diversification. You can undertake the transferring of the risks through insurance. And finally S, which stands for the division of risks. And this is a very favorite area of question by the examiners rather, and they will try to give you a scenario where they will ask you to identify what is the ideal risk response. So my friends, please be aware of arts. Try to remember the different risk responses coming out of the component of performance, and there is the principle of VAPIR. Next comes the component of R, that is we are saying review and revision, and the principle has a mnemonic SIR, easy to remember. What does it include? Assess substantial change, that is the S. Improvement in ERM, that is the I. Reviews risks and performance, again the R. Finally, we have the last component, which is mentioned as information, communication, reporting. In bracket, it is put as ongoing because this component is a continuous one. If you see information, communication, reporting, that cannot happen at a particular point only. It has to be a continuous, ongoing process. So remember it by the letter O in our basic mnemonic of our component of group O. The last O letter is for our definition of our component information communication reporting ongoing, that is the O. What is the principle? The tip. Tip is a mnemonic to remember the principles. What does it specify? Leverages information technology, that is the T. Communicates risk information, again that's the I. Then reports on risks, culture and performance. We take the performance P here. Hopefully This particular mnemonics will help you to remember the exhaustive meaning or definition of the ERM COSO framework components and principles. So this is all about in today's session. We have kept it short so that it is easy for you to revise the meaning of ERM, the benefits, as well as the components and the principles. Hopefully, you have found this particular session to be something insightful as well as helpful for you. Stay tuned for more such sessions in the upcoming weeks. Thank you.
To join our next live online CMA US batch, WhatsApp to +90 18787088850.